There we are. Hopefully we have audio. I check, double check. I think we got everything. Welcome everyone to the Exhale podcast. I am Eric Strauss. I'm here with Rodman Lees. And today we are going to be diving into this lovely piece of timber in front of us, or rather in front of Rodman. The Koah Twin R is the model name. This is a double roller, full blue water setup. I'm really excited to take a look at this gun. I've been eyeballing it for a while. It's not a brand new gun. It's been out for a little bit, but nonetheless, a beautiful piece of artwork. So we're going to dive right into this thing and tell you our thoughts, our tabletop review. First impressions.
There you go. First impressions is it is a piece of timber. There's a lot of wood going on with this gun. It is a hefty gun.
We should have taken a weight on that thing because that would be interesting to know because it is heavy.
It is a heavy gun. It's got that 11/32 shaft in it. That's not helping anything.
I think that's where a lot of the weight comes from.
Neck down to 8 mil, which I actually don't mind. I kind of like it because you can use your standard slip tips on it.
Yeah.
You don't have to get a special 11/32 slip tip.
I actually really like the neck down 8 mil.
Yeah.
I think that's cool.
Yeah, I think that's neat as well. I guess we'll just do it pros and then cons of what I like about it.
For sure.
So, right off the bat, what I like about it, it's a beautiful gun. That's just what you expect from Koah is just that craftsmanship, high quality. It is a beautiful gun. Most of the twin rollers, you can buy this guy at Florida Freedivers. As it sits. Most of the twin rollers are going to be a custom order from either through a shop like Florida Freedivers or from Koah directly. You can get this finish that's on it right now, or you can get it oiled. My personal opinion, I'd probably get it oiled. I just think the oil looks a little bit better, a little bit easier to maintain, but the shine on it when it's brand new looks really, really good.
I actually think that the epoxy finish is easier to maintain. Just because the oil guns, no matter how well they're oiled, I don't care if they've been put in a pressure chamber and oiled or if they've been sitting in oil for a week, it doesn't hold up for more than a year.
Oh,
you got to re-oil it after a year.
Yeah.
These epoxy finishes are surprisingly durable. Now, it may not hold its glistening sheen like its showroom, but as far as a durability standpoint, it's not going to fall apart.
No.
And you don't have to re-oil them.
No, it's not going to flick off. You're not. I think it's two different trains of thought maybe. So I have a Jeep right now, and the thing's got you just run it. You change oil every couple thousand miles, but you pretty much go.
Just call it a send.
But the thing's, it's going to run out eventually. I had a Volkswagen for a while. As Eric knows, he's helped me pull the engine on it more than once. You had to constantly be adjusting the valves and messing with it. But that thing, I believe, would go 1,000,000 miles. It would go forever. So I think it's maybe two different, trains of thought. Your first dent on this thing, you're never gonna re-epoxy this bad boy.
Oh, I'm gonna put the first dent in it.
Yeah,
by hand.
Yeah, that's a fact.
I guess one way to look at it, the oil gun may take more frequent maintenance, but it's less work. The epoxy finish takes less frequent maintenance, but it's more work when you have to do it. Re-epoxying the whole gun is definitely an ordeal.
Fair enough.
I actually do like the epoxy finish. I think it really brings out the grain.
Yeah. No, that's true, man.
And it's a beautiful gun.
It is a beautiful gun. If you're ordering it custom through a shop or direct, you can also pick the woods. This is their kind of standard wood, but you can get Purple Heart or Zebra and all sorts of other crazy stuff as well.
This one is all teak.
Yeah.
And if you want to buy this gun, check the link in the description.
Bam.
Right there.
You should.
Somebody buy it right now. Going once.
So other stuff that I like about the gun, fully enclosed track. With a gun like this isn't a whole gun. You're not shooting this thing on the reef. You're blasting this thing at big wahoo in the Keys, big tuna in Ascension. This is a big game. This is your elephant gun. This is something that you're trying to reach out and put the hammer down on something.
Yeah. This is actually a subject that I would like to dive further into at some point in my lifetime. I would be very interested to see the difference in how this gun would shoot as an open track versus an enclosed track. Because I honestly don't think the enclosed track is doing much for you when you're shooting thick shafts like 11-30 seconds and like all the way up to a 3/8 shaft, stuff like that. I don't think you're really getting that much advantage out of the enclosed track, but that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah.
This gun with the enclosed track is a solid setup. It's gonna go right where you want it to go.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say with the double roller, you're putting a lot of band pressure on that shaft. Now,
For
is
sure.
it going to bend an 11-30-second shaft? I don't know. I don't know.
You ain't gonna whip that thing.
I don't know. But you are putting a ton of pressure on it. Above my pay grade, you're going to have to ask a guy like Coates, but I hear like differentiating, or contrasting things on shaft whip with rollers in general. I've never had it explained to me well enough where there wouldn't be, but I know people smarter than me that say there's not.
Yeah, I'm saying even factoring out the roller deal.
Yeah. Just you're shooting a piece of rebar, you're not going to whip it.
I got a good email to send you.
Ooh.
A very interesting article written by Steve Alexander.
All right.
It's actually not an article. It's an email that somebody got back from Steve Alexander upon asking a pretty similar question.
Huh.
And I found it very interesting.
Nice. You want to sum it up at all?
It's hard to sum up because it's pretty long, but essentially it's hard to compare one versus the other because there's so many factors that go into what makes a gun shoot well.
You're comparing roller versus standard, or
no, just
enclosed
versus open.
Because I don't know about all, but a lot of his guns are open track.
A lot of his guns are, but he was maybe not the first, but actually could have been one of the first. Was one of the first guys to make enclosed track guns. He made enclosed track guns because he was making those over-under spear guns.
All right.
And they needed the enclosed track to hold the shaft on the bottom. And then they figured out that, hey, this actually shoots pretty well when it's enclosed. But basically what he was saying is in big blue water guns, like when guys first started chasing big tuna and stuff like that, they're trying to figure out how to get their guns to shoot farther so they could have more opportunities to shoot these tuna. And so they put an enclosed track on a gun and they started overpowering them. And what he was saying is, unless you're overpowering the gun, the enclosed track does not give you any benefit. And especially, like, it takes a lot of power, a lot of band power, to overpower an 11-30 seconds or a 3/8 shaft.
I'm sure.
Yeah. So it's very interesting, at the least. It's worth a read. I'm sure you can hear this rain on the...
It's pouring. There's a cold front coming through Florida. It's going to drop into the 70s.
That's a good sound.
But that means that we got a little rain.
It's the Exhale Podcast ASMR Rain Edition.
There you go. We'll put that in the description. Don't worry. 1,000 more views just from adding that.
Regardless, I think the way this gun is set up with the enclosed track is a solid setup. One thing I actually really like about enclosed track guns is that they drop that shaft farther down into the stock. So you're dropping your shaft axis a little bit, and you're getting the center mass of the shaft kind of like in axis in line with the weight of the gun. So I think those are big advantages that are commonly overlooked.
For sure. No one says that. No one's getting that technical.
Yeah. Well, you know me.
Yep. I also like that it comes just right off the shelf with a breakaway. That's what you're going to be using it, with. You're not messing around with it.
That just means I don't have to reset it up.
Exactly.
When you come and buy it.
You're using the breakaway straight off the bat. I like that the line really, it's a purpose-built roller. So it's really nice. I like the handles. It's like that Hogue handle. It's like kind of your standard deal.
It's the Hogue Ergo grip.
The Ergo grip.
And it makes a phenomenal spear gun handle.
Yeah.
It is a comfortable handle.
I like it. Great. I like Koah's trigger. All their stuff. I'm not a huge fan of that bar safety.
I don't like that.
Yeah, but loading this gun, it's a 135 centimeter double roller. Is it the
Yeah.
easiest gun in the world to load? Absolutely not.
No.
Absolutely not. But it does
Just
have a
reaching the wishbones is a
you need a
chore.
solid you need a solid load assist. I'm not trying to do this without a load assist.
I could get it, but it's a chore.
Yeah.
And I think overall the gun shoots better with a standard wishbone instead of like any roller gun, not just this one, shoots a little bit better when you get rid of that second loop
Yeah.
of wishbone. It's going to be easier to get a sight picture, so on and so forth. I think it's just
We'll get into
better.
cons in a second.
True.
But but yeah, I like that it has a hole drilled if you wanted to run it inline. I know some people like the inline float setup that at least it has that option.
You don't even need a float. That thing is the float.
About right. I also really like the VBS, the variable ballast system. So
That's a great concept. by
being
him.
able to fully adjust the weight, especially out at the muzzle. So what that is, not that you're going to be able to see it at all.
Yeah, I can action cam you.
Boom.
So in the back of the gun over here, you can see right behind the handle
We'll use that as an example.
that carbon fiber plate.
They have that in the front by the muzzle as well, up here. Way up here. But you
Yeah, you
unscrew
can see
that
it.
plate, and there's lead weights in there. And you can make it lead shot. He's got these little pucks in there right now. But you can adjust it, make it more buoyant. You can adjust the buoyancy. So you want it to be more negative? Great. You want it to be more positive? Awesome. Take some of the lead out. Add some more. I really like that feature because although they ballast all of the guns and whether they do or not, most manufacturers say they do it. I've definitely shot some guns that are ballasted terribly.
Terribly.
And to have the option to do it, it's like putting salt and pepper on the table at a restaurant.
Yeah.
I expect the food to be seasoned right.
Here,
But sometimes I want to add a little.
yeah, for sure. And here's my theory on custom guns and ballasting. I believe 99% of custom guns are ballasted with like the first gun that they ever built. So like I think Koah may or may not do this as well. I'm not sure, to be honest. But this is my theory. They built the first gun as like the production gun. They ballasted that gun to figure out where the weights need to be, how much weight needs to be added, and so on and so forth, and apply that same ballasting to every other gun that they make without actually putting them in water to test them. Now, there are definitely guys that do that, put them in the water, but I don't think most people do.
If you're running
And
a
there's
big production,
variations in grain and stuff that's going to affect the buoyancy of the gun, although slightly. It will affect it. Not every gun's going to be ballasted the same.
oh, for sure. And they're not kilning the wood. Like there's going to be moisture content differences in the wood.
So having the ability, what we're getting at, having the ability to adjust that ballast is definitely a huge pro, in my opinion. It's not like most guns of this caliber, custom guns, blue water guns, will have ballasting built into the gun already that you can't adjust. It's permanently finished into the gun. You'll see little like wood plugs over the top of where they put the lead in, which is fine. If the gun was ballasted in water and is done that way, that's fine. But when they're more production, higher production volume, let's say, it's good to be able to adjust that.
And let's say this shoots an 11/32 shaft. Well, what happens when you bend this thing on a massive tuna, and let's say you bend the 3 that you brought, and now your buddy, he's got like an 8 mil or a 9 mil shaft. Well, now that's gonna throw it off. Maybe you want to tweak it a little bit.
A little sloppy in there, but
Yeah, but still, like,
look at the neck difference.
I know, it's crazy. It's crazy.
That's how much space you'll have in that tray.
Yeah.
You could probably show that on your camera. Take that tip cover off of there. Let's see that neck down on the shaft.
Get it. So you can see it step down right there.
You can't see it at all. It's too far away.
All right. That's what I figured.
Whatever.
All right.
It's a big difference.
This is my favorite double roller wood gun by far. Eric, you were saying if you were gonna buy a Koah, this was the one that you were gonna buy.
Yeah. Honestly, if I were going to go buy a blue water gun, like a big timber blue water gun, that's probably the gun I'd go with. I don't want to run a 4-banded setup,
Yeah.
you know? So, did we cover most of the pros?
I
Do
think
you have
we covered,
anything else?
I think we covered most of the pros. I like the ramp. Yeah, I like it.
Okay. So, a couple things. The first thing that I don't like about this gun is the band anchor system.
Stole my thunder.
Sorry. Which is, it's actually not, here, bring it over towards me. Let's show this thing. It's not terrible. So as you can see, you got the band anchors cut into the wood, just like the Koah Reef Roller, which you can check out our review on the Koah Reef Roller as well. That was actually our first ever video podcast. So you've got that where the band actually just notches in. And you can see the one in the front there where you have a little, I think it's probably starboard or something like that. Some kind of high molecular weight plastic. Nobody cares about that. So you can see that's notched in with a wishbone style connection. Now, that's all fine and dandy. However, if I'm using a 2-banded gun, I want a 2-step loading process. I want to load 2 bands. I don't want to load these on a low power setting, flip the gun over, and load them again all the way down. If I'm going to do that, I'm going to shoot a compound roller because that's essentially the same process. I'm not going to go into depth on the compound roller because that's a whole nother system. However, if I could redesign this gun, the first thing I would do is probably insert one of those plastic inserts that's up in the front there as far back as I can get and just run both bands at a single fixed point, not have an adjustment, and just run them like that. Because if you're loading this gun with a load assist anyway, you don't need to have a low power setting. This is a blue water gun. I'm not powering down the gun.
No.
There's no
full
purpose
power,
for that.
full time.
And not only that, the difference between where these bands are located is not enough to like make it that much easier to load or to make it that much less powerful. We're talking a matter of 6 inches at the most on the back one, and maybe 4 inches, less than that, 3 inches, 4 inches, something like that on the other one. It's really unnecessary.
At the very least, I'd have it set on its stock max power all the time.
All the time.
There's no reason to ever have it less than that. If you watch any of our roller reviews before, you want those bottom bands as close to the mechanism as possible. You're trying to get as much power out of it as possible. And really, you're trying to get the bands on the bottom moving as fast or faster than the bands on the top.
Yeah.
So you don't want there to be a ton of stretch on the top and not a lot of stretch on the bottom.
And you could get these band anchor points a lot farther back. So you can see there's a big space in the back here, which the gun is actually thinned out. You can see that drop down right there. I believe that space is put there in case you want to run a reel, which I like the versatility, but ain't nobody running a reel on this thing.
I would never run a reel on this thing.
So you could make this your front one for your second band and have a full another anchor, or even anchor them both to the same point.
And on a roller, I'd rather just mount my reel in front of the bands. You know, and have the bands go around the reel.
Yeah. And I just think the anchoring system could have been done better. And I think you're wasting a lot of power and a lot of band stretch by this whole system here. So if I could redesign the gun, that's my biggest con, is it's just a weird system.
Yep.
I think it's unnecessary.
So again, me too. That's probably the biggest one. I think it's overcomable. You just make it on the furthest back one. It's a 135 centimeter double roller. You're getting a ton of power out of this thing anyway.
Yeah.
I'll
say this real quick. Sorry to interrupt you. If this were my gun and it was exactly how it is, I would have one band permanently back here. I would ignore that plastic piece right there and make another second band come to that one.
Yep.
That's what
I'd run the two furthest back ones. And then the next thing is the bands themselves. It's typical on Koah guns. He just runs them a little underpowered. He gives you more rubber than you need. It's nice because it makes it easier to load. But on a gun like this, where you're only loading it, if you're loading it 4 times a day, you had a good day.
Yeah.
You know, I'm getting as close to 400% as I can get with this thing. I want it loaded up. The fact that you can even load it by hand with these means that it's nowhere near as tight as it should be.
Yeah.
I
Probably one of the best made double rollers that I've seen yet is the Coatsman double roller muzzle that's adaptable to most pipe guns. And that's basically, it's this gun with a fixed anchor point all the way in the back, and 400% is how they come. You know, these things, this gun does not have much I don't think it has any pretension on the front setting. Maybe just 5 or 10%.
Maybe. Barely. It's just resting on it.
Yeah.
I can move it with one finger. You shouldn't be able to get it off the rollers by hand.
Not a gun this big.
Yeah.
No way.
So I want it. I'd tighten the bands. I get rid of the little wishbone in the back because you're not going to need it. I'd cut one of the bands down. These bands are big enough to go on like my 120, the inside band. So I'd just turn these into 2 new spear gun bands. I would get a new band to go to the back. That's all one piece again. So the bands I don't really like.
Or bring them all the way around the handle.
At least to the trigger guard, you know.
That'd be annoying.
The next one is, I wish there were. It's my understanding that they're bushings, right?
No.
Really?
Koah actually uses, I think they're glass bearings.
Really?
I could be wrong on that. It's definitely a bearing. All the Koah reef rollers have bearings, and
For
this
some
gun
reason, I
also
thought
has
they
bearings.
were bushings. They're bearings.
Yeah. No, they're not ceramic bearings. But
Then I
they
like
are
it.
bearings
I'll
nonetheless.
take glass as well. Ceramic definitely are a better bearing out of the box. The problem is,
But they're more fragile.
they're more fragile, and you get a bunch of salt in there. Like, I don't think any of the bearings are running at 100% capability. I've seen
Once they get wet, they're running 100%. When they're dry and they get salt in them, it definitely holds them up.
Yeah.
But once that salt dissolves and when they get wet, they're fine.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want.
As long
I
as you
see
don't
what you're
grease
saying
them.
is that they're gonna dissolve, but it's not like they dissolve like that. You know,
It's pretty quick.
put some sea salt in a cup of water and see how long it takes for that stuff to dissolve.
Yeah, but we're not talking a cup of sea salt that's in those bearings. It's like a handful of grains.
Yeah, but still, I don't think they run. I think it runs way better than bushings. I'm sure there are people, again, more knowledgeable than me, that will tell me I'm an idiot, but I don't have a huge preference over glass versus ceramic bearings.
It's not a massive difference between the two. There's no doubt that the ceramic is a faster bearing.
For sure.
But when you're comparing them based on like hand feel, shooting the guns, are you going to feel the difference in how a glass bearing gun shoots and a ceramic bearing gun shoots? Absolutely not.
No. Nope.
I haven't shot them enough to notice a difference.
Yep. So really, that's not a negative. The band system is really the only thing, and it is fixable.
Yeah.
It is fixable.
It's a solid gun.
Yeah.
There's not much that I would change about it aside from that band anchor system. The safety, like you said, it is what it is. All the Koah guns have the same sliding safety on them. He puts them on there for liability, I believe was the original reason that he had to incorporate them. But it is what it is. If you really don't like it, you can pull it out.
Yep. I think that's
just not
probably
run
what
it.
I would do. If I was to do anything to this gun, to mod it other than bands, I might file its carbon fiber, the ramp, so you can easily file it. I might file just a little bump stop in there.
A little stop, yeah.
A little stop to catch the bands.
I was actually looking at it, and I don't know if it's enough to catch the bands, but it
little
does
bit,
have
that
just
little bit.
a blonde one of a stopper there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think the Koah rollers in general I've noticed that on a lot of the newer ones that we've gotten in the shop, which on the old ones, they were just flush into the gun.
Which
and that-
looks better.
It does look better, but you need that stop.
You need to stop.
If you're wondering what we're talking about as far as the stopper on the band risers, all roller guns have a band riser. If they don't, then it's a terrible gun. And that little stopper is essential to allow the bands to release the shaft without changing the trajectory of the shaft as it goes up that riser. So without it, the bands will actually pull the shaft up the riser with it and bring the back of the shaft up, drop the front down, shoot low. So that's the quick and dirty on that.
There you go.
We have a whole episode about that as well. I'm not sure which one it is. I feel like we talk about it in every episode just because I'm a nerd for rollers.
Rollers are cool. All right, guys, that's a Koah double roller.
Yeah. So this if you're looking for a Mac Daddy blue water gun that's fully roller set up, this is the one.
This is the one.
There's no way around. You know, I'm a big fan of small guns and getting as much as you can out of a small gun, but there's no changing the fact that slinging an 11/32 shaft out there is going to increase your range. It's going to increase the amount of opportunities you have to shoot big fish, and you're going to land more blue water fish with the longer range gun. There's no doubt about it. So
I don't want to say if you can see it, you can hit it with this gun, but it's pretty dang close.
it's pretty close.
It's
About as close as you're going to get.
Yeah.
You know. So anyway, thanks for tuning into this episode. Hopefully you learned something about the Koah roller and what we think about it. Like I said, if you want to buy this particular gun or if you want to order a custom one, you can definitely hit up Florida Freedivers. The link is down in the description to buy this gun. Otherwise, we will see you in the next one. Leave a comment down below what you would like to see us review next. See you guys.
See ya. Thank you.